Good afternoon, everyone. It's Sebastian Castillo here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I do remote sales. I lived in China for 4 years, learned Mandarin. I've been living here in Mexico for the last 3 years, and I help people become their best selves by breaking the cycle of self-sabotage. So today I'm here in the mall called Plaza Andares, and as we can see, it is busy. It's Saturday afternoon. Everyone's out and enjoying themselves. Topic of today's video was just real short. I was having a conversation last evening with a friend of mine, Todd Johnson. And you guys should follow him on YouTube as well. He's got some great content. But we were discussing the pros and cons between living in a place that's arguably cheaper, at least compared to North American standards, and then living in a place that's kind of more expensive. So, if any of you have been following my channel, you'll know that for the longest time since I came to Mexico, I was based down in Cancun. And I actually just moved out here to Guadalajara about exactly 10 days ago. So I'm new here, but as we can see, again, take a look around. When people think of Mexico, typically what comes to mind is that it's a third world backwater and you got to watch your back all the time. And that's partially true, but that there's no development, that there's no technology, and everything is completely backwards, which is totally off, as we can clearly see here. This is a gorgeous, very upscale, high-end, clean place, and we've got a lot of people walking around here who do exactly living in poverty. So there is an argument to be made in terms of, should you live in a place that's cheap versus somewhere that's a little more expensive? And now I feel a little more qualified to talk about this because I made an uncomfortable jump moving from a place where arguably I didn't have to spend much money on much of anything, my rent, my bills, and my food and everything, to a place that's a little pricier, right? I don't live too far away from here, maybe around a 10-minute Uber ride. And I'll show you guys pretty soon what the neighborhood looks like. But in terms of when you're just getting started, right, when you want to build up your capital, build up your business and your skill set, by all means I think it makes sense to live somewhere where you can keep your costs low. And you don't want to entertain too many luxuries. You don't want to spend unnecessarily. All the money that you make should be spent towards your own self-development, towards increasing your skill set. And in particular, if you want some pointers on that, if you're looking to make money online and get free and leave your country, whatever it is, you probably want to invest in some kind of sales and marketing skills, because pretty much every fairly wealthy person has some kind of basis in that. At least a large majority of them do. And then once you do that, you could branch out into other things. But really, in the beginning stages, you want to focus on you. You want to focus on building up your human capital, right? Being able to deliver value, and ideally in a way that isn't tied to your location and doesn't require you to have any fancy equipment or anything like that. Then, once you're on a roll, once you've established yourself, you've got a solid skill set, and you know that you can take a bit more of a hit in favor of being in a locale where you can more easily meet people who are of higher caliber, then it's worth it. What do I mean by that? Well, think about it. You buy cheap, you get cheap, typically. If you're living in a place that's fairly cheap or low cost, then by default, most of the people around you are also going to be in that position. Because if people have got it, if they've got the money to live well, then naturally they're going to gravitate towards living in a place where they can get the best bang for their buck, right? Now, what may surprise some of you, if you've especially never really traveled abroad, is you might be used to paying $1,500 a month, $2,000 a month for a shitty one-bedroom studio or something like that, or a basement suite, whatever it is. And then when you move to a place like Mexico or Argentina or Eastern Europe, Thailand, whatever it is, you'd be shocked at how inexpensive a fairly decent place to live in can be. But again, there is a catch. As long as you're still in those places, many of the people you meet are still going to be a little bit lesser quality. But then when you take the jump, there's no guarantees, but there's a high chance. When you come out to a place like this, just by osmosis, just by nature of you being there, you're naturally going to start mixing in with people who are of a higher caliber, who have stronger skill sets, who are more ambitious, who are just generally higher IQ, and that can propel you forward. And in turn, any upfront expenses incurred in moving to a more expensive place can be made up for, because you're getting exposure to these new opportunities and these new people and new ways of looking at things that you might have never considered before. Not to mention also, the girls tend to be a lot better when you're in a place where the money's flowing. And that's just a fact. Not to say you can't find good girls, good looking girls in the barrio, right? The lower end neighborhoods. But generally speaking, you're going to get along best with people who are of the same socioeconomic class as you or even higher, right? Doesn't mean you can't be a bit of a chameleon, doesn't mean you can't be quite open-minded and develop your social skills by interacting with people in all sorts of different spheres. But just as a general rule, things are going to go a lot more smoothly with you when you're around people who have the same mindset as you. So once you build up your capital, once you build up your skill set, I recommend moving out to a place where the cost of living might be a little bit higher. Of course, look at your numbers, make sure that it fits in. But believe me, it's going to be worth it. So that is my little spiel. Those are my thoughts for the day. Hope you guys are doing well wherever you are. And very, very soon, I'm going to be putting out my own offer, if you're familiar with the online business kind of lingo. Kind of ties into what I was saying earlier about helping people overcome self-sabotage. That can mean all sorts of addictions, all sorts of negative thought patterns that really prevent people from taking the leap and doing something amazing with their lives and having some crazy stories to tell and overall just living a lot better. So be on the lookout for that, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.